Welcome back to our discussion on workplace safety, an integral aspect of organizational culture. We were discussing about safety as a strategic priority, and up till now we have discussed the role of leadership, that is the leadership's commitment to safety. We discussed the integrity of safety into organizational goals, that what if the organization's goal itself is to keep their people safe. Then we discussed about building a safety oriented culture where there is open communication about risks, ensuring that people feel responsible not just for their own safety but for their colleagues also. So, next aspect of having safety as a strategic priority is continuous training and skill development. So, regular safety training ensures that employees are aware of hazards, emergency procedures, and safe work practices. So, training also reinforces the idea that safety is dynamic. With new technologies, materials, and processes, bring new risks that must be understood. So, if you are switching your technology, if you are using some other material, or the industry is switching to some other processes, or some new equipments are being used. So, everything new would bring in new risks as well. So, are your people trained for that or not? So, you are trained for using X technology, but now since you are working on Y technology, you need to be trained for the mitigation of the risks involved as well. So, here I would like to discuss the example of Reliance Industries that conducts extensive training programs and emergency drills across its refineries and plants. The employees, they undergo periodic refresher courses to stay updated on safety protocols. Similarly, the British Petroleum restructured its global safety training program after the Deepwater Horizon accident, emphasizing hands-on simulations and real-time risk communication. Then comes transparent reporting and learning from incidents. An effective safety culture values transparency. So, organizations that encourage employees to report near misses and unsafe conditions without fear of punishment can learn from small failures before they become disasters. So, when we are ready to share and when the management is ready to listen unbiased, the focus shifts from blaming individuals to improving systems. So, we are not blaming any person or any situation or any instrument for that matter. We need to focus on improving our system so that no life is lost or no losses are incurred. So, the Airbus operates under a just culture policy where employees are encouraged to report incidents or potential hazards confidentially, and this data is collected, it is analyzed so that they can prevent any recurrences. Then Johnson and Johnson's Tylenol crisis, we have heard, and I too had discussed this Tylenol crisis where the seal of Johnson and Johnson product was tampered and many people lost their lives. So, that again established open communication protocols that have become a model for crisis management and safety transparency. So, Johnson and Johnson openly communicated with its customers, they accepted their mistake and they withdrew the entire batch from entire US, though that accident or the crisis was located to one particular city only. But Johnson and Johnson withdrew the entire batch and they apologized, accepted their mistake and apologized. So, that is the kind of transparency that you can build, which helps your customers build trust. So, in each of these cases, the success of safety initiatives depends not only on the systems and equipment, but also on the culture behind them. So, when leadership, goals, culture, learning and transparency align, safety becomes a strategic advantage rather than a regulatory obligation. So, that is what I was emphasizing upon, that it should not be just a regulatory obligation, but a part of your culture. So, let us learn about some historical case studies learning from these tragedies that happened. The first one being the Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984. So, the Bhopal disaster remains one of the world's worst industrial accidents. On the night of 2nd and 3rd December 1984, a toxic gas, methyl isocyanate, leaked from a pesticide plant owned by the Union Carbide India Limited in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. What were the causes? Water entered the MIC storage tank due to poor maintenance. The safety systems, which included the refrigeration, the gas scrubber, the flare tower, they were all turned off. So, there was lack of emergency preparedness and community warning. Nobody was equipped to handle that kind of an emergency, and there was no community warning so that others could be warned about this issue. So, the inadequate training and cost cutting in safety maintenance led to this horrendous accident. The consequences of this were that over 3,000 immediate deaths were reported, thousands more later due to exposure. So, 3,000 people died immediately and many more died later due to exposure of the gas, the poisonous gas. And apart from these deaths, there were long term respiratory, neurological and even reproductive health effects. The environment too was badly impacted by this gas leakage. There was severe soil and groundwater contamination. Lasting reputational and legal damages for the company as well was also seen. So, what are the lessons learned? The first one being that never compromise safety for cost. Though every organization works for profit, but it is ultimately the people who will let you to those profits. So, if those people are not safe, how can you think of bringing in more profits? Then you need to have regular audits. Maintenance here is again important, and emergency training is vital. If people are trained on how to handle emergency situations, this could have prevented. Then ethical responsibility extends beyond plant walls. It means if you are operating in a society, your organization or your factory is there in the vicinity of a particular city, you are using those resources. So, you are accountable and responsible for the people around as well. So, that ethical responsibility and your accountability, that you need to take into consideration when you are operating, that you owe something to the community as well. So, the second case is that of Rana Plaza collapse in 2013 in Bangladesh. So, a 9-story garment factory building, it collapsed due to structural weakness, due to which over 1,100 workers they died. And what was the root cause? Negligence, poor regulation and unsafe infrastructure. And the lesson learnt is that the supply chain safety is as important as in-house safety. So, the structure was weak and it led to the 9-story garment factory totally collapsing, killing so many people. The third one is the Chernobyl 1986 and Fukushima 2011. These were nuclear disasters caused by human error and design flaws. Chernobyl, the issues were secrecy, poor safety culture, lack of accountability. Fukushima underestimated the natural disaster risk. And what is the learning? Transparency, training, planning of worst case scenarios, these are critical to safety management. And these must be a part of the organization's culture and not something which is done just for the regulatory or compliance obligations. So let's discuss about the theoretical foundations and the principles of workplace safety. So these are various perspectives of how you see workplace safety. So the first one being the human relations perspective. So the human relations school, it emphasizes that employee morale, motivation and safety are interlinked. According to this perspective, a safe environment enhances employee satisfaction, reduces stress and fosters productivity. Unsafe or stressful workplaces lower morale and increases turnover. For example, Google creates psychologically and physically safe workplaces. The ergonomic furniture, stress relief zones, flexible working hours, they all reflect its pro-human or human-centered culture. So, in these organizations, employees they feel valued, leading to higher engagement and innovation. The second approach is the behavioral approach, and this theory focuses on employee behavior and reinforcement. So, safe behavior is learned and maintained when consistently rewarded. So, like a child, when we are kids in the school and when we do something good, the teacher gives us a star and she makes sure that that particular behavior is repeated. So, she keeps on giving you stars so that that behavior becomes a permanent part of our personality. So, safe behavior again is maintained when it is consistently rewarded, while unsafe behavior must be corrected through training, feedback and accountability. So, DuPont's STOP, which stands for Safety Training Observation Program, it uses behavioral safety techniques. Workers observe each other and provide feedback on the unsafe acts. Positive reinforcement has led to a dramatic reduction in accidents across its global sites. Third approach here is the systems approach. So, this perspective sees the organization as a system of interrelated parts, people, technology and processes, and that is what happens in every organization. We as an organization are working in collaboration with so many other things. People are using technology, we are using processes to ultimately be productive. But a safety failure in any one subsystem, like machinery maintenance, can affect the entire organization. So, a machine gone wrong can impact the people, it can impact the processes, it can impact the organization's productivity. So, hence safety must be embedded in every process and not managed in isolation. Tata Chemicals follows an integrated EHS, which is Environment, Health and Safety Management System. It aligns plant design, process engineering and human operations under one safety umbrella. The fourth approach is the socio-technical approach. This was developed by Triss and Banford, and this approach suggests that both social systems, including the people, teams or leadership, and the technical systems like the machines, the tools, the workflows, they must be designed together for maximum safety and efficiency. Ignoring the human side of technology would create risk, because ultimately whatever accident happens, human lives are lost, which is the saddest part of all these accidents or workplace safety hazards. So, you can't ignore the human side of technology. So, after the Bhopal gas tragedy, many chemical firms like the BASF and the Dow Chemical, they revamped their processes to integrate technical safety systems, including automated alarms and remote shutoffs with the social training and supervision programs. The next is the risk management theory. or the risk management approach. According to this principle, all organizational activities involve some level of risk. The goal is not to eliminate all risk, so which is impossible. So, there are so many processes, we can't completely eliminate all types of risks, but we need to identify, assess and control it systematically. So, for example, Shell uses a formal hazard and effects management process, HEMP. It is a structured framework to identify risks, evaluate consequences and mitigate hazards before they even occur. So, friends, up till now we have discussed about workplace safety being an integral part of our organizational culture. So, workplace safety is of paramount importance because whenever we ignore the safety of our people, what happens is there are cases like the Bhopal gas tragedy, the Rana Plaza collapse, the Chernobyl, Fukushima and many more cases we have seen in history. And the root cause of all these cases has been when organizations put productivity before people. So, we as organizations must understand, as I said, that people are the medium through which we as an organization are getting all the profits. So, if we fail to protect our people in the long term, we are not going to remain sustainable, we are not going to get the profits, get the productivity that we wish for. So, as an organization, we should understand that the safety of our people is non-negotiable. And when I talk about safety, it is not just the physical safety or safety from accidents only. It is equally important that we keep our people devoid of any stress, we give them psychological safety as well. So, when I say psychological safety, it means people can express their feelings, they can express their views without being afraid of being judged or being punished. Then also we need to understand that as an organization we are operating in an environment, we are accountable to the people around. So, is your industry, is your factory causing air, water pollution in the surrounding? So, you have to make sure that that safety of the people around and not just your own employees, but the people around your organization are also safe. Are they exposed to any viruses or bacteria? Are they exposed to any hazardous substances, especially when we talk of the chemical industry? So, these are all considered as the scopes of workplace safety. And safety can be kept as a strategic priority, which would give your organization a competitive advantage. So, if your leaders are committed to safety, leaders can set the tone through their actions. As I said, like I gave you the example of Tata Steel, where the leaders, they just walk up to the workers, identify the risks that they are facing, and because of their one behavior, the accidents have drastically reduced. The incident or workplace incidents happening on certain machines have drastically reduced. Then what about integrating safety into organizational goals itself? So, when you align safety into your vision, mission and goals, so safety becomes a performance objective. That can also be done. Toyota does it through the Kaizen. So, the company's long term strategic plan includes zero accidents, and that is a measurable business objective. You can identify, you can clearly measure that in this particular quarter there were zero accidents. So, that can be a KPI as well. Then what about building a safety oriented culture? As I said, that culture defines behavior. So, if safety oriented culture is there, it would promote awareness, there would be shared responsibility and mutual care. So, you are not just taking care of yourself, but also for your colleagues. So, Shell Global uses this goal zero, Maruti uses safety first approach. Then there are safety weeks which engage both employees and contract workers in training and awareness activities. But for that you need to give your people a continuous training and their skills should be developed, because training also reinforces the idea that safety is dynamic. If you are using certain new technologies, new processes, new materials, new equipments, then you must be aware of the new risks that are associated with new things, and for that you need to have a continuous training. So, Reliance Industries, British Petroleum, they all conduct extensive training programs, emergency drills for their people. Then you can have transparent reporting, learning from incidents, as I said, have a transparent culture, focus, when you are transparent, the focus shifts from blaming others to improving your system. So, Airbus operates a just culture policy. Johnson and Johnson, after the Tylenol incident, they had an open communication, and that was how they managed that particular crisis, by being safety transparent. So, in case of all these cases, success of safety initiatives, it would depend not only on the systems and equipments, but also on the culture behind them. And we looked into the historical case studies of Bhopal Gas, of Rana Plaza. Again, it was the greed and not giving enough importance, due diligence, and poor regulation, unsafe infrastructure that was being used, and the people were not trained to handle crisis, that led to all these incidents. Then we did the theoretical foundations, where we learnt about the human relations perspective. We learnt about the behavioral approach, which focuses on employee behavior and reinforcement. We did the systems approach, where the organization is seen as a system of interrelated parts. Then we did the socio-technical approach, whereby it is suggested that both the social systems and the technical systems, they must be designed together for maximum safety. And last was the risk management theory, according to which all organizational activities involve some level of risk. So, we cannot eliminate all risks, but we must try to identify and assess and control all other risks that can be eliminated. So, friends, we will continue with the principles of workplace safety in the next couple of lectures. Thank you.